Good evening. Welcome to the October 2nd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing 2 commissioners. However, the special ones are here, so we have a quorum. We're moving forward. And as a reminder, I'll call on each of you for commenting, so we're not speaking over each other, and that all votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to participate in a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I'll call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and of the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination actually has a few different meanings. Sometimes it's the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do in fact apply, or may require some conditions or just further investigation. Therefore, the project may require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear us say something negative. All right, first up tonight is to vote minutes, September 18th, 2024. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 18, 2024, including any potential changes suggested at this point.
Second, Gladfelder.
All right, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes of 9/18. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have accepted the minutes of 9/18. Thank you, Kristen. Next up is a request for determination of applicability. First up is Quistit Harbor Boatyard, 36 Quistit Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass. For after the fact permission to install and maintain existing unlicensed floats. Fallon?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move. We have a little bit more amplification of what the situation was.
Jen?
Courtney, we've been provided evidence that those floats have existed since at least 1968. They have been continuously used, and the harbor master has been issuing 10A permits for the last several years for their to allow them to be there. There was a Chapter 91 license way back when that had one of the floats, said one of the floats was going to be removed. It just never was. But we do have photographic evidence that they have been there since 68.
Okay. Thank you.
Driscoll, second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation.
I have a question. I have
Okay.
a question, Jamie. Do
Yeah.
they need to, are they going to apply for a Chapter 91 license? Or did
I
they
will
get,
talk to their consultant to ask them reapply for Chapter 91 to incorporate that one float.
okay.
Okay.
All right, next up, John Baker, 24 Grassmere Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B, and remove 2 debris piles. Fallon,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Hillary Steinert, 15 Kerry Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install mitigation plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4295. Fallon,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are continued requests for determination of applicability. First up, Margaret Foffenoff, 30 Woodneck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove the existing cesspool and install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Fallon,
Staff recommends a +3 under the state and +2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and I can elaborate.
Please.
Ben,
Fallon can elaborate, and when Fallon is done, Mr. Chairman, there is a Shane Hochter in attendees that would like to address the board.
okay, sorry about that, Fallon, I misunderstood. Go ahead.
Yes, so staff has seen no issues with the septic itself, but on this property as a whole, there have been several violations, such as an unpermitted vista, an unpermitted deck that is moving closer to resource areas, an unpermitted stone patio, an unpermitted fence. Part of it is within a velocity zone. The driveway has been reconstructed and additional clearing has occurred. And there has been a path made around about half of the property. So as a whole, we just cannot support this project moving forward. We would like to see these violations dealt with for moving forward.
Did they miss a regulation? Just asking.
They never asked permission before doing any of this work.
So they can come back with a notice of intent with all the stuff
Several
being
of them.
corrected in that? Is that the plan?
That's what the staff would like. There's a Shane Hochter here. I've just promoted him up. I believe he is the property manager. The consultant is out of time. The consultant is Tim Santos with Merrill Engineering. So Mr. Hochter is here to represent the applicant. Hello, Mr. Hochter.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? So I'm here as the owner's representative. This property specifically, what we're really asking for is the RDA for the septic. We did have a meeting on site with the town staff that did come out. We do thank them for coming out. I think that some of this has to do with the property has been in the same ownership since like approximately 1959, in the same family. So a lot of the things that occurred as far as like the fencing, some of the walkways and the porch, they're actually compiling photos from prior to 1978 to try and address some of those issues. But what we're really looking for is, this is just kind of an odd timing. Tim, the engineer from Merrill Engineering, is actually on his 25th wedding anniversary trip overseas. So he can't be here. And then some of the other representatives for the family opted not to come because it's really like an emotional thing for them. So what we're trying to do is get the septic approved to go in. We have no problems, doing separate filings for the violations to address those. Tim suggested that we could get those in and completed by year end because it is quite an extensive list, as well as the family's ability to locate all the photos, showing the deck. There was also a prior letter that was issued from the town in regards to the walkway and the stone garden that was already remediated. But the town has no record of that. It was from the prior conservation agent, I believe. So we have the septic has been designed and approved by the Board of Health. There is I would say it's a substantial financial burden to the applicant because of the cost of the septic, as well as the need for it, because it's a weekly pumping almost, or every other week pumping, because it's a failed cesspool from like 1959 or 60. From what we can tell, there's no record of the septic on site, and that this would most likely be the original septic from the construction of the home. So they're prepared to answer for all the violations. But in the meantime, we have this failed dual tanks cesspool on site that we need to address.
All right. Jen, do you want to start? Anything?
Mr. Chairman, our comments are going to stand. There's a number of violations on the property. We can tell when these things came in with our new near map photos. As you know, the near map system takes aerial photos over the property every 6 months. We know that deck went in fairly recently, within the last couple of years, and it is moving closer. We just felt, wrapping it all up in a notice and dealing with it all on would be the cleanest way possible. But if you'd like us to move forward with an enforcement order, we'd be happy to.
Did you speak with Tim about all this?
Tim is aware of it. He was on site with us. He is aware of it.
Okay. All right.
He's aware of the staff's position. He's aware of the family's position.
If I could just add one other thing, was that during the construction period, because I was the one that was responsible for construction at the time, not that this enters into it, but all the work that was completed on site, we did run past the building department, and we asked, is there anything else that we needed? And prior to this, obviously, everyone was unaware that there was any conservation issues on the site or conservation permits were needed. So when we went and we got building permits for siding, roofs, windows, even the deck was considered a repair at the time. So and even the fence was told to us it was allowed by right as long as it was under 6 feet. That these were all done. It was an inadvertent, it wasn't a malicious act or something that was a deceptive act. It was really just things that we did research at the time that they were completed. And we didn't find out about. These have all been in, roughly 8 years at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to disagree with that. The property owner did know this property was in conservation jurisdiction. During COVID, they did file with us and then refused to let us on the site and needed to withdraw the application.
But the work that was completed that you're claiming that are the violations were prior to that. The work that we completed was in like 2017. That would be.
And it needed a permit. And I don't believe there is any building permits for that property either, or like for the deck.
No, that was Brian from the building department told us that was a repair. So we didn't need to apply for one.
You have had no building permit since the 1990s for that. So there are clear photos in near map. That deck was not there prior to, I want to say 14, there was a little bump up off of it, and then it got expanded to an L around the wraparound. We can clearly see it in an aerial. If they have photographs, that'd be fine. Again, our position stands. This should be a notice and wrap all of these violations up. But again, if the board would rather go the enforcement route, we can do that. It's just a lot more complicated and it's a little messier.
All right. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'm going to poll for comments. Courtney?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward the notice approach. And the other question is, given its location, if you're going to upgrade the septic system, given the regulations about denitrification coming down, and would it make sense for them to go ahead and install a denite system if they're gonna go to that expense?
That's what we have. It's $115,000. I think it's the N12. It's the lowest rated system that we can get. So that is what's going in there.
That's what is going in?
Yeah, it's a full denitrification system down
Okay.
to just the 12 system, which is the lowest rating that we can get. Yeah, it's over $100,000. I think the cost is $125,000 without the sites, work.
Oh,
Hmm.
Oh, I'm sympathetic. I live near you and I'm
Yeah.
facing the same problem, so.
Right. And we're just trying to, I mean, the realistic thing is that we're just trying to get the septic in. It's easier to put the septic in now than it is in the middle of January by the time we get all the surveys, the remediation or mitigation, I'm sorry, the mitigation boundaries set. There's a lot of work there that has to be completed, but we have a local contractor set up. I believe that the money's changed hands for the tank, which has already been purchased. It's easier for us to do it now than it is in the winter. And it stops the pumping. Yeah.
you said you're pumping weekly?
Just about every other week, right? Weekly.
Every other.
Sometimes, depending on the house load at the house, we put
Yeah,
in covers that can be checked weekly.
Okay. Betsy,
I'd like to make a motion to support staff's decision of a
Second.
positive determination.
okay.
Bert,
I think Kevin seconded.
okay.
All right. So to continue with comments, Kevin, did you in fact second that?
Yes.
Do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Oh, I got a lot, but I think I'll keep it to myself.
Ron,
Is that house occupied full time now?
Yes, it is.
All right, thanks.
all right. So,
I mean, they are going to address the issues. I mean, this is, they're making progress towards doing that. It's just they need to replace the septic. I mean, it's really it's a need, not a want. And they're going to address the other things like we've already contracted with Merrill to do all the separate filings. We just can't do it all in the time frame to make it, we were unaware of it until we started this process.
okay. Jen, to your knowledge, is this the first time, how to word it? I don't want it to be too negative, but is this the first time all the violations have come to light?
Yes, because we weren't allowed on the property back during COVID. They had filed, I want to believe they had filed for a septic. I can't be quite sure about that, Mr. Chairman.
No, they started work for an addition. It was not.
Then it did. Okay, then it was an addition. I wasn't sure. And so this is the first time we were aware of it.
Okay. All right, Betsy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Mr. Hochter,
Yes.
do you work here in town?
Yeah,
Things
I'm
like
actually
that?
I'm from Sandwich. We hired all local companies to do the work locally.
But you must have realized, I mean, I'm a little bit sympathetic when somebody sometimes builds something near a vernal pool where it's dry most of the year and they have no idea it's a wetland. You must have realized this was
Well,
a wetland, and you'd have to go before conservation for any building there.
yeah, and we did pull permits for the roof, the siding, the windows.
Conservation permits?
No, because at the time when we contacted the town, they said they issued the permits, and then we asked them about that. And then when the building inspector came out for the siding, we asked him about the deck, the existing deck on the side of the garage. Really what this is, there was a walkway existing prior to this. It was a bluestone, concrete, and pea gravel walkway. We took that out and put a landscape paver walkway back in.
Well, let me just, I don't need to know all the details about this property, but let me
Right.
just inform you that any work, even the siding or the roof, would have required at the minimum an RDA. So in the future, if you're
I believe that
working in,
those were granted because we did get building permits for
we
all.
didn't, you just said
Hold,
it
hold
doesn't
on,
matter.
he's telling you that he applied and received a building permit. They allow you to pull permits for roofing and siding under an express permit. So
Yeah.
whether that gets reviewed by conservation, I don't know. But all I'm saying is, and if it doesn't, then that's why they would get their permits. So
That's
it's
what we
not
did.
necessarily that anybody skipped a step. It's just in the system to allow certain projects to go through in an expedient way. One is roofing, siding, doors and windows.
Correct.
A deck
That's what we
repair
did.
is a gray area because, you know, but repairs are allowed by right. So I'm not defending anyone. I'm just so you know, I can see where they're coming from.
That's
I'd
exactly
like to
what
see everything cleaned up as well. I also like the idea that they're going to put a nice D-night system in. So for me personally, I'm on the fence about it. I'd like to see it all cleaned up. I would have felt better if Tim was here and could attest that they're working on that application process, but
I think
I
that
don't
my
know.
understanding was he was going to send a letter as well. I don't know, Jen, if that came through or Fallon.
No, it did not.
All right, so at the moment, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation, which is a +3 and a +2. I'm just going to throw this out there, Jen. Would it make sense to continue this at least until we can hear from Tim or the owners to figure of speech? Don't get anybody get insulted. That to prove that they're working on an application process to clean all this up.
Okay, Mr.
You know what I'm
Chairman,
saying?
Yep,
Does that
I
make
did.
any sense or not?
It does make sense, and that's usually what we do. You have a pretty detailed staff report. We can send you additional photos if you'd like.
No, I read it.
I just did a search of my email, so we didn't receive any additional information, Mr. Hochter, from Tim. The last correspondence we had with him was us going back and forth about our Monday site visit with you.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the property owner did realize that they were in Conservation Commission jurisdiction because they had that enforcement matter where they had to remove the Zen garden you told me about from the marsh. So,
Right, but that
Um,
again, just for clarification, that was after all the other work had been completed. Because that was ironically, we subbed that out to another company that did the work, and that was post all the work on the house being completed.
Mr. Chairman, our recommendation stands.
Okay.
I'm not going to go back and forth about this all night.
All right, Courtney, something new?
I'm sitting in your camp. I think we should let them go ahead and put the septic system in. And then file a notice to clean up all this other stuff. But maybe we should continue it to hear from Tim. That's my thinking.
I don't know when Mr. Santos is returning.
I mean, it's, the environmental damage of a failed septic system is something that should be dealt with. And they're going to put a D-night system in. That's a very positive thing. And so I'd hate to see it get lost in standing on principle.
All right, Kevin, did I see your hand up?
No, I'm just agreeing with Court.
All right. So the motion and the second on the table is to accept staff's recommendation. So if you want to vote for that, you vote for that. If you want to vote against that, that would potentially allow the septic work to go through. And I'm only saying that just to make sure the vote is clear. I'm not trying
Correct.
to influence anybody or anything. Okay. So any other comments or questions? All right, we're going to vote on the motion in the second, which is to accept staff's recommendation of +3 and a +2. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, no.
Matthews, no. Kevin,
No. Oh, Brian, no.
thank you. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
all right. It's 3-2, so the motion does not pass.
Mr. Chairman, to be clear, someone should make a motion to issue a negative determination.
Okay,
I make a motion to issue a negative determination.
Bird
you.
second. Bird second.
all right. So this vote is to issue a negative determination, which would allow the septic work to go through.
Septic work only.
Septic work only. All right. Everybody clear on that?
Yes.
All right. We're voting on it. Betsy,
Gladfelter, no.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Aye. Driscoll, aye.
All right. It's 4-1. So the negative motion passes. So Mr. Hocker, please compel your clients to clean all this stuff up, work with Tim.
Yeah.
Let's get this cleaned up.
We'll issue an enforcement letter for a hearing on October 23rd.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tim's going to be back on, I believe it was, I want to say in 2 weeks because he left on the 25th and I think it was a 2-week trip. So right when he gets back, he's going to start sending stuff over and working on it immediately because that was our plan as well.
Well, let's get that process started at least. And now at least you can get the septic work started.
That'd be great.
That's a good thing.
Is there a
One
10-day?
quick question, Mr. Hockner, is the septic going under the paver parking area that was installed without a
Yes.
permit as well?
Yeah,
So do
so
not
up,
put that paver parking area back
correct, until we get
until we get this
Yeah.
cleared up.
Yep.
Because that's another big issue out there.
Is that something that we could put gravel over top of it in the meantime due to runoff?
Well, we will cross that bridge during the notice of intent process.
Well,
Okay?
No, but I mean, once they're backfilling the septic, they're gonna need, you're talking about a parking area, right?
Correct.
Fallon, where is that parking area? Is it in a zone A or a zone B? I don't have the plan in front of me.
I
Let
believe
me
it's
grab the
ice
plan.
plants that they able to-
hold on, Courtney.
Yep.
Give Fallon a minute, Court.
A portion looks like it could be in zone A. Part of it's in zone A, part of it would be in a zone B to a coastal bank.
So the
So that
part
would-
that's in
Most of
zone
it's in the
B,
zone B. Most of
part
it's
that's-
in the zone B.
most of it's in the zone B. So Mr. Hockner, if you know where the zone B is, you can put gravel there. But it cannot go in that zone A, or it will need to be mitigated for. So
So
And that
Tim
could
could
be
offer you
you
just
some
can come
guidance.
into our office tomorrow or next week and we'll show you the plan and we'll show you where we mean. And we can show you where you can put the gravel, okay?
Mhm.
All right.
All right, Courtney,
No, that question's been answered.
thank you. All right. Thanks for participating, Mr. Hockner.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Is there a 10-day appeal on this? or No.
Yes, there's a
Okay.
10-day appeal on RDAs and on notices.
Okay, so we'll wait and see what happens.
Okay,
Thank you much. I appreciate it all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Next up, Elizabeth Irving, 65 Irving Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B. Fallon.
Mr. Chairman, this was, oops, sorry, Fallon. This was the continued RDA that you were supposed to go out and look at the vista, correct, Fallon?
Yes.
So I'm assuming everybody had a chance to go out and look at this property. This is the one where they wanted the vista on the side of the deck, but they already have an established vista looking south, and then they wanted to prune. So our recommendation was, I believe, a positive, correct, Fallon?
Yes.
Because it exceeds your vista pruning regulations.
Right, so would there be a +3 and a +2?
We're
Positive.
saying +2 under the state and bylaw.
Thank you.
Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird
Thank you.
so moved.
Gladfelter second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation, which is a +2 and a +2. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Alan, thank you for your input and all that.
Thank you.
Our hearings under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Greg Clancy, Clancy Construction, 227 Clinton Avenue and 352 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool and install a new Title V tight wastewater holding tank. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli up as a panelist and a Kim Gravel from Lockwood Remediation Technologies. I had to grab my paper to say that one. To discuss the project. Mike's here to discuss the project, and Kim is here to discuss the dewatering since this is right on the harbor. And before anyone asks, Mr. Chairman, this notice was filed as one notice. Both properties are recorded on the same deed. So there's not two separate deeds for this property. So if anybody was wondering why we filed one notice, that is why.
You'll get asked that again, don't worry.
I know, but I just thought I'd preempt it.
Yeah. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Kim Gravel from Lockwood Remediation Technologies. We're here tonight asking permission to install a tight tank holding tank septic system to replace an existing failing cesspool. The properties in question include number 227 Clinton Avenue and a parcel that is a paved parking lot adjacent. I guess I should ask if I can share my screen.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Number 227 Clinton Avenue is also known as the Clam Shack, which is a seasonal seafood restaurant. It has outside seating and some inside seating. In the same building, there is some office space that houses some of the staff from Greg Clancy Construction. Clinton Avenue heads in an easterly direction, and right at the curve with Scranton, that's where we are. If you continued straight on Clinton Avenue, don't go too far or you'll end up in Falmouth in a harbor. That's where the Patriot, I think it's called the Patriot 2 ferry docks. Adjacent to that is a parking lot and some boat slips under the same ownership as the property at 227. There's a bulkhead along the shore of Falmouth Inner Harbor. Wetland resources include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. The existing cesspool has been deemed to be inadequate, failing to meet the requirements of Title V. It's very likely in the water table, if not very close to the water table. It's tucked in this one little corner. You can see it here with the circle with the S, and that's a manhole cover and a very small cesspool. Frankly, I don't know how it's actually keeping up with wastewater flow. There are no restrooms in the building. That might be one reason why. The proposal is to abandon the cesspool, repipe the plumbing from the facility under a portion of Clinton Avenue to the other parcel owned by the applicant, and have it discharge into a tight tank holding tank. This tight tank holding tank has been sized in accordance with, it's been oversized, frankly, in accordance with Title V requirements. It is a 5,000 gallon holding tank. It must be certified waterproof and watertight, including the covers. It will be excavated and installed below the surface of the pavement that exists here. The excavation will be limited to the trench for the pipe and only what is necessary to dig the hole to install the tank. We are positive and have designed this to be constructed with certain methodologies that will allow for excavation into the water table. By that, I mean we propose to have steel sheeting installed around the perimeter as a coffer-dam. The excavated material would be excavated and directly onto 10-wheel or large dump trucks, hauled off-site. A dewatering system will be installed throughout this process. A series of well points will be installed around the perimeter of the steel sheeting so that the excavation can remain dry. The water from the dewatering process will be pumped through what's called a weir tank, which is, again, Kim can talk about this in more detail, but the pumping process, dewatering process effectively is a filtration system that filters the groundwater so that it can be discharged directly back into Falmouth Inner Harbor with no impacts. Lockwood Remediation Technologies applied for and received a permit to do the dewatering process. It's a federal permit, and we have submitted that to Conservation Commission staff. So this is proposed to be a somewhat of a surgical operation, if you will, to limit the excavation to this area. Once the tank's installed and the pipe is installed, the excavation will be backfilled. Because the tank sits in the water table, we have to take into account the effects of buoyancy, because the tank could actually float if it is empty unless measures are taken to offset the forces of buoyancy, and by that, in an effort to do that, we've designed a concrete ballast slab which will be installed on top of the tank, flush with the parking lot surface. The weight of the tank itself is almost, but not quite heavy enough, even when empty, to offset the buoyancy forces. The concrete slab will more than be enough to add sufficient additional ballast to make sure the tank doesn't float. We had originally designed the tank to offset we had originally calculated the buoyancy calculations, assuming that the tank would be submerged at time of highest groundwater elevation. But when we went to the Board of Health for permission, it was suggested that we should design it as though it was not only high groundwater conditions, but the area being in a flood zone, it should be designed such a way that if it was fully submerged, it could still be offset from floating, and that's why we added the concrete slab. I did mention the Board of Health. We've had three reviews prior to you. The very first review we had was with the Board of Selectmen. Kevin Clower from Arment Clower went to the Board of Selectmen to get support and approval to apply for the permits. We needed to do that because the pipe runs under Clinton Avenue, which is a public road. The Board of Selectmen voted to allow us to proceed with the necessary permit applications. After that, Kim applied for the dewatering permit and received that. So we were able to go to the Board of Health, because the Board of Health has to review and approve any tight tanks. We went to the Board of Health a few weeks ago, armed with the ability to apply on behalf of the town because of the crossing and the dewatering permit that Kim secured. The Board of Health reviewed this and voted to approve it as, you know, a significant benefit to protect public health and the environment, and made a ruling that there were no other feasible alternatives. There's no sewer available. A traditional septic system would be, portions of it would be leaching very close to the water, groundwater surface, and there wouldn't be sufficient separation for treatment. So this is a zero discharge tight tank. If we receive a favorable order of conditions from you, Kevin Clower will go back to the Board of Selectmen and secure a license to allow the pipe to be installed under Clinton Avenue. I think that sums it up. I can turn it over to Kim to talk a little bit about the dewatering methodology, and then we're both available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike.
How you doing?
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my video, but I have it on and I'm not here, so I apologize. So I echo what Mike said. So what our company is going to do is we're going to provide all the dewatering wells, and we'll put those wells inside of the steel sheeting, or the cofferdam, if you will. Those wells will be put to a specific depth to dewater the excavation so they can work in dry conditions. All recovered water will be pumped to the weir tank, which is a baffled tank, and it's designed to help keep any recovered sediments within that tank. From there, the water will be pumped through bag filtration, which is further used to get rid of any sediments within the system. And then it's pumped out through a flow meter and then out into the harbor. That's all outlined in the dewatering and remediation general permit, which is required by the EPA to discharge to any surface water body. And it's a pretty simplistic system. It's really just for mostly sediment removal. There is some pretty intricate sampling that the EPA requires, and we'll be doing the sampling in accordance to the permit. I know this is a short duration job, so we'll probably only have to sample a couple of times, but that's really it in a nutshell.
All right, Mike, if you would stop sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions or comments. Mike, thank you for sending over the methodology. Kim, thank you for coming tonight, just in case the board had any questions. Sometimes dewatering this close to the harbor can be kind of problematic sometimes, so I appreciate you here
Sure.
to talk us through anything. I was pleased to see the way that you were going to do that. So I have no additional questions, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I do have one, Mike. Mike, is the town going to go and monitor it all, do you know, or is it going to be Lockwood and Falmouth Engineering?
Well, it'll certainly be Lockwood and Falmouth Engineering. The Board of Health will also inspect the installation because they have specific requirements, and they actually issue a certificate of compliance. In addition to your certificate of compliance upon completion.
No, I was just wondering about the road work, if the engineering department was meaning the.
Well, they
town
may
of
be.
Falmouth.
It's very likely that the license that the selectmen grant has language that makes it so that the work across the cutting of the pavement and the repair of the pavement is done to town specifications.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. No further questions or comments, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Fallon,
No additional comments. Thank you both for answering our questions we had earlier for you.
Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments, questions, Betsy?
I have a question and a comment. So Kim, what are you sampling for? Level of turbidity?
Yep, we are required to do turbidity, total suspended solids. There's a few metals, nitrogen, phosphorus, things like that. So
Okay,
nothing really elaborate, just basic analytical that's required in the permit.
Yep. And Mike, my comment to you is this must have been kind of fun. It's interesting to have something different.
As engineers work go, which is very boring, this was kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you had to figure out the buoyancy and how can you keep that down in the, okay.
Let's just hope the tank doesn't float. Someday you drive by and see the tank floating.
I hope not. I'm going to say they said that wasn't going to float. That's all, Jamie.
Courtney,
Well done. Nice, complete presentation on an interesting project. I agree, you must have had fun with this one.
Thank you.
And hopefully it'll work as designed.
Hopefully. Or I'll be in
No
early
other-
retirement.
No other comments.
pretty sad when you're looking for a tight tank designed to
This is my life.
raise your spirits. Sorry, buddy. I have a couple of questions. You said that the ballast slab would be installed on the top, basically at the level of the asphalt. I don't see it on the drawing. Is that because I can't see it, or? I mean, it's on top of the tank, correct?
Yeah, you want me to share my screen again?
If you don't mind.
Not at all. So, if you zoom in on this closely, that might help. So the tank itself is this inner rectangle,
Okay.
and then I crosshatched the concrete, which overlaps it. I believe it was like 18 inches all around. And then I describe it as 8 inches thick, 14 inches wide, 14 feet wide, 21 feet long, with number 3 rebar, 6 inches on center in both directions.
Okay, I didn't see it in the profile, and maybe I just didn't recognize it as what it was.
Yeah.
So just clarifying.
Sure.
5,000 gallon, you said it's more than necessary. How often would that get pumped?
There's requirements that it be pumped semi-annually. It's also, I failed to mention, fitted with an alarm, float-in alarm like they have in a pump chamber that is set to alert at 3/5 full. so that there's adequate time. That gives you several days to arrange for it to be pumped. But you're supposed to be on a schedule so that you don't have to have the alarm go off.
Yep.
The tank's much bigger. The tank could really be a 2,000 gallon tank, but it's more cost effective to pump it and more convenient to pump it maybe once or twice a season instead of 4 or 5 times a season. So the cost of the tank is more, of course, but the overall project cost, when you look at the whole thing, it made sense to go with an oversized tank.
Thank you for clarifying that, Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Ron?
Yeah, on the discharge, it's the flow discharge is governed by the pH level. That controls how much flow, how much discharge goes out into the harbor at any one time. Kim?
I'm not quite sure I understand your question. The pH of the water is the pH of the water. That's not going to determine our flow rate. I'm not sure I understand your question.
What determines the flow rate then?
There's a lot of things that determine the flow rate, but essentially in this case, it is, how tight the sheeting is, how much water is coming up underneath the sheeting, what the soil lithology is. Is it really all sand? Is there some silt in there? It really just all depends of the permeability of the soils. Whether it's high tide, probably in this case. So, but we did sensitivity analysis, and we have a lot of different ways in determining flow rates. So we did our calculations, and we designed a system rated for 150 gallons a minute. So it's going to be probably a lot less than that once you reach what we call steady state. So essentially, we're going to be dewatering a bathtub, right? And then the water will essentially reach a certain level, and then we'll maintain that flow rate. So it's going to be higher in the beginning when we first turn on the system. And then as time goes on, it's going to be a lot less. So that's essentially how dewatering works. And it is a 24/7 operation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Ron, you good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Does not appear to be anything in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Mike,
See you.
take your victories when you can.
Yeah. What do you mean? I get quite a few.
No, this was fun.
Yeah. It'll be fun to watch it go in.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
All right. Next up, Cindy Coates, trustee, 187 Penzance Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install restoration and mitigation plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4608, renovate an existing boathouse, including roof alterations, relocate mitigation plantings, remove several dead and diseased trees, and maintain an existing path. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative has requested continuance until October 16th.
Bird so moved.
Driscoll second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until October 16. Question or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 10/16. All right. Next up, Scott A. and Agnieszka A. Dresser, trustees, 44 Walcoit Landing Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management, install restoration plantings, and reconfigure the previously required mitigation area. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Katrin Higgins from Wilkinson Ecological to present their project. Good evening, Katrin.
Hello. Hello, everyone. For the record, Katrine Higgins from Wilkinson. Let me share my screen. You see that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
So happy to be here tonight. The project that we're proposing is asking for additional invasive removal and native replanting, which significantly increases the opportunity for ecological restoration on this property, especially when you compare it to what was previously approved as mitigation for house construction, the proposed house construction in a separate NOI. So previously, the proposal for replanting, mitigation replanting was just about 1,300 square feet. And now we're asking for invasive removal and replanting that totals about 3,400 square feet. So it's a nice addition and a nice opportunity from our perspective for some more good work. So the newly proposed work is primarily focused on the coastal bank, and where most of the existing vegetation is non-native and invasive species, including the aggressive knotweed, bittersweet, shrub honeysuckle, vine honeysuckle, autumn olive, English ivy, Norway maple, and porcelainberry, just to name the big ones. This non-native vegetation, as we see on a lot of coastal banks, has already outcompeted the native plant community that should be growing there. And really, there's only remnants of that plant community with some eastern red cedar, some cherry, bayberry, sassafras, marsh elder, and some goldenrod existing still. So we'd like to manage all the invasive and non-native species. That would consist of delicate handwork on the bank, and then, sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. And then, so a combination of handwork, and where we have access over the lawn, we would be using low impact equipment for the top of the bank, just to remove the debris and get it off site. We're proposing to coppice a few existing cherries on the top of the bank, and I believe there were some questions about that. Maybe we can have a conversation about that after this, but it is important to note, I think it's really important to note with these cherries that they're not pristine cherry trees. They've been historically managed over decades of this property. I believe the building was built in the 40s or 50s, so they've been managed for a while. They're unhealthy and they're sparse in form. So they're only a few feet tall. They lack biomass, and honestly, they're pretty pathetic in terms of a native plant. So we feel it makes good sense from an ecological restoration perspective to flush cut those little saplings and manage them in order to provide and to allow them to develop greater biomass, with the goal of providing a thick cover. The few cherries there could really make a nice little hedge, and they would grow in shrub-like form and would be managed and would still provide functional habitat, cover, nest sites, as well as forage sources in the fruit in particular. So immediately following the invasive plant management, we would completely, all the bare soil on the bank would be seeded with a native seed mix as shown on our restoration plan. And we would apply erosion control blanketing to hold the soils in place until the root systems of the native grasses can get established. And then in that area, that restoration area, we're proposing native species such as red chokeberry, black chokeberry, marsh elder, bayberry, beach plum, blueberry, arrowwood, and along the toe of the bank, American beachgrass. And you'll also see on this plan that we're proposing to reconfigure the shape and species selection of the previously approved mitigation area. This work in total will benefit the resource area by providing an increase in diversity in native shrubs, the arrowwood, the chokeberry, the beach plum, for example, that really provide key food for birds during migration right now, in particular. And the establishment of that herbaceous grass layer, which is lacking right now with all the invasives on the bank, really will enhance stormwater function on the site. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Catherine. If you would stop sharing, please. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we didn't have too many comments on this one. We did receive, I know you're gonna have to go onto the neighbor's property to work, correct? So we did get permission from the neighbor.
Yep.
We would like monitoring reports.
Sure.
Because the Virginia tea is in a very large percentage, we don't really have a problem with that in this particular mitigation plan. But keeping with past recommendations that staff has made on coastal bank projects, we can't support flush cutting the cherries and managing the cherries as shrubs, especially 3-foot high shrubs. They're trees. It shouldn't be a problem since you're undertaking this this invasive species management plan. So we have made that recommendation in past coastal bank restoration projects, and we can't change our recommendation now. So
Understood.
that's
you
where
be
we are on that one.
Okay, I understood. Would you be amenable to removing them and replanting something like serviceberry in an area on the bank? Or along maybe like in a kind of sheltered area by the boathouse on the walkway? The stairs
Where are
going
these
down?
cherries? I thought these cherries were on the south side. Are they on the north side? Am I wrong?
No, but I just threw out the idea of serviceberry. They'd like to be a little bit protected, but they're on immediately kind of in the center of the bank, the top
Oh,
of
the center. Okay.
yeah.
Oh. That'll be up to the board.
Okay.
No more questions, Mr. Chairman, or comments.
All right, Ellen.
Just kind of echoing what Jen stated about the cherry trees. Would really like to see them stay as they are and give them a chance to, survive and thrive. But other than that, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments and questions. Ron, you're in the hot seat.
I'm all set, thank you. No comments or questions.
All right. Betsy.
In a different order.
That makes you pay attention, or it's supposed
I know.
to.
I was
Squares
listening.
move
I was
around.
listening, but I was muted. No, thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Jamie. No questions.
All right, Courtney.
I think this is a basically good plan. Obviously there's an issue with the cherries, but you guys will work that out. The thing that I'm more concerned with is the ongoing management of this. These projects are invasive removal of all sorts. Really require an ongoing management plan that, in fact, is a perpetual something you have to do forever. Otherwise, the porcelain berries and all the other bad, nasty guys that infest these banks are going to come right back. So I assume you have a management plan and so on.
Correct.
Okay.
We're working on projects that we've worked on for 15, 20 years. And at that point, we might just go back to the site in early spring and one time in the fall. It's reduced management, but you definitely have to continue managing.
And the owners are committed to that. They understand that's because that's obviously an ongoing expense as well as an activity that we would condition. Yeah.
Correct. The applicant here is extremely focused on the knotweed and understands that, it's an aggressive species and we definitely need to maintain it and continue to maintain it. But if we do our job right, it's a reduced amount every year of work.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no end game on it. It just goes on and on. It's a perpetual battle, almost like, well, never mind. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, I think I missed, what did you say about the neighbor's property? Access, is it?
It's access and
Oh.
there's a tiny bit of work over there on the knotweed, isn't there, Katrin? Yeah. So the neighbor has given permission to work on their
Okay,
property.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
a very
Yep.
small piece. It's
I
a
read
very
that, okay.
steep bank. Courtney, their management plan does bring it out for the total of the 3 years of this project. And if they needed to go back, they could always come and file an RDA for those extended treatments. So the management plan that was submitted, the separate management plan, does detail out all the work they're gonna do at least for the next 3 years.
Mhm.
And I'm sure we'll see them beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, that's my real concern, is not the 3 years, because that's easy. It's 10 years down the road. And everybody's will to do that. And that's a concern, not only in this project, but a lot of them. It's something I think I'm gonna add as a topic. Anyway,
I already put it in.
Oh,
okay,
the conspiracy. All right, regarding this project,
6. Excuse me, Mr.
and
Chairman.
is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I don't believe there's anything in the public chat function regarding this project, Mr. Chairman, and I am correct.
I'll make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Katrine.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
All right. Next up, James and Lori J. Lucerian, 256 Alder Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct and enlarge a deck, enlarge an existing patio and walkway, construct an addition, reconstruct and relocate a front entryway, and construct a new landing and rinse station. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have promoted Tom Bunker up to present his project.
Tom
And
Bunker,
most
I remember that
likely-
name from somewhere. Where
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Don't make me
Yes, it
dizzy,
has.
Tom.
No,
Mr.
no
Bunker, you're up,
jitters.
sir.
Thank you. I'm gonna be very slow tonight and not pan my screen around. If I may share my screen, I will get on with it. And so I have the overview plan here. This property, 256 Alder Lane in Wild Harbor Estates. It's near the very west end of Wild Harbor Estates, next to a tennis court here and a vacant lot on the south side, south side of the lot. I outlined the permitting history. It's been through a bunch of permitting. In the last one, there was a compliance issued 2017. And there's a compliance plan with that, and the site is in the same condition as it was at that time. So we have Wild Harbor River is up here. Let me back up one, just a little more. Wild Harbor River, the river, the edge of the river is defined as the annual high tide line, which is, there's a long explanation right up in here of this high tide line through here, which actually also coincides with the edge of the marsh and also the town definition for zoning setbacks is along this high tide line here. And so then the 100-foot setback is to this line through here, and 200-foot riverfront area is all the way out. So the whole lot is in the riverfront area. It's in a velocity zone, velocity flood zone. Oops, going the wrong way. You can see on this heavy line running through here, flood VE elevation 17, running through most of the house. And then we have the Falmouth velocity zone, 25 feet landward of that going through here. So the FEMA velocity zone and the Falmouth velocity zone encompass the entire house. And this plan shows sort of the final product. I'll go back some. So we have a salt marsh, and there's a salt marsh zone A right through here, 100 foot salt marsh zone A. And there's coastal bank around here, which, you know, the zone A, coastal bank zone A is basically the entire lot. So everything we're doing is in the zone A of mainly the salt marsh and somewhat the coastal bank. This is the final product here, which shows two proposed cedar trees and this outlined area, the heavily shaded area in this location. And I can go on. This is the existing conditions plan. So the deck, starting with all of this deck area being removed from the house. And that area encompasses 465 square feet here. And there's a Japanese umbrella pine in this hole. This is all brick patio. I point out that most of this work occurs over a brick patio. So for mitigation, there's not a lot of change. And so for moving the deck around, it's all over patio. So adding up, subtracting over the patio doesn't make any change for mitigation, but because it's in the velocity zone, adding deck and other items do contribute to the 200 square foot one-time small addition limit in a velocity zone. So this deck is coming off. There's also the walk is going to be removed and rebuilt, and there's a little bit of an entryway right here, which will be removed. And up in this corner, it's, I think I called it in the narrative, the appendage of this patio here will be removed to offset some increase of the coverage by the proposed deck. So that's what's being removed. And this lists the distances from the marsh and the BVW and the lot line, which is a zoning issue, to the closest points on the house. And then the additions, so this shaded here, it's almost the same. Again, we'll go back in there. So it's going back, but larger. And then there is this corner, which is labeled as 112, but I had a nice meeting with your staff. Very accommodating. I understood all the limitations of my brain and working this. Actually turns out to be like 100. They couldn't understand my numbers. And one reason why is that this 112 square feet is actually 114 square feet. But more importantly, if you read through the mitigation calculations and the narrative, when I was trying to study up to explain it to them, I had a hard time too. But this is the proposed deck. There's some right here, 125 square feet, which was deck, and the original stairway running down in this location will be enclosed as habitable and conditioned space, a kitchen addition. And that is up on the first floor, which is elevation 20.9, which is 3.9 feet higher than the velocity flood zone elevation. Then there's this deck right here. The new stairs are 43 square feet. And then the new coverage counting toward mitigation. It also counts toward the 200 square feet, but this 112 square feet, it's really 114 square feet, counts toward mitigation. And in the calculations here, I have the so in the front of the house, we're taking away the on the 200 square feet, we're taking away the rear deck is 465 square feet, and we're adding 650 square feet back in, which comes out to 185 square feet. One thing I did not include in this calculation, and this is where your staff was helpful, we have a proposed rinse station here. It's about 25 square feet adding into here. So that puts us over the 200 square feet. And so this deck is dimensioned as 14.5 feet by 33 feet. So it could be, I was told it could be put in as a condition to change that 14.5 feet to 13.5 feet, and that will remove 33 square feet, which will more than offset the rinse station here as addition. And then the mitigation calculations, the front walk is coming out of 139 square feet, and the front walk is being rebuilt as 208 square feet. That little entryway is really just being rebuilt and changing location. There's well, this 139 includes the entry and the walkway. The walkway up in here is 10 square feet coming off and 10 square feet going back. But I do have the rinse station landing on steps as new coverage here is 58 square feet. And that comes out to be, actually it's going to come out less because we're taking some of the deck off, but I'm going to redo these calculations. Basically comes out with the 240 square feet of patio being removed here, 240 square feet. So it comes out to a wash. Actually, it's going to come out to about 33 square feet reduction in coverage because of, no, I'm sorry. Because only the part that's over lawn is being, when they take out a foot, so that's about 14 square feet of coverage over lawn will be removed. So anyway, the coverage will be a decrease in coverage in zone A. No more than 200 square feet of addition in a velocity zone. We're taking out the umbrella pine that's here. It'll be right in the way of the kitchen windows. And this area will be loamed and seeded, 190 square feet of loam, 50 square feet of mulch, although I don't have 50 square feet. They told me not to mention this. It might be confusing. But anyway, 50 square feet of mulch with the 2 cedar trees in it in this location as compensation for removing the umbrella pine. That's what we're proposing here at Alder Lane. I'll take this down.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Jen.
Now that everybody is thoroughly confused, Tom,
I did the best I could.
I hate to do this to you, but how did you go from 212 to 214 when this morning, 112 to 114 when this morning it was 116?
Well, I was just saying it off the top of my head, 116. It's still a reduction.
Lynn's dying right now. Okay, composing myself. We did meet with Tom. We were very confused about the numbers yesterday. Tom was gracious enough to meet with us tonight, talk us through it. We've got it. We know what Tom's doing. We don't have any additional comments. Tom is going to change his plan to reflect what we discussed this morning. He's going to take a little bit off his deck. It's going to reduce his coverage in the velocity zone to under that 200 square feet. He's zero mitigations. We're good.
Okay.
It took us a little bit to get there, but we got there.
Good
Thank
meeting.
you, Tom. Thank you for meeting with us this morning and talking us through it. It took all three of us to figure it out.
Tim scale.
All right, you
It was
good?
great. Yeah, we actually are good. We worked this out with Tom this morning. We're fine.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Fallon,
I'm not sure if this was mentioned or not, but since the rinse station is going to be in a velocity zone, we just recommend that the sides are made out of something like cell cloth. But that was it for me. No additional comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments and questions. Betsy.
I actually witnessed some of this conversation the day before. So I'm thrilled that it's worked out, and I'm confident that between Tom and Jen and Fallon, it's what's going to be best for that area and the client. And that's my comment.
Excellent. Who needs us? Courtney.
No comments.
All right. Kevin.
I wouldn't dare.
Don't you have a question on numbers, Kevin?
Oh,
Ron.
Just one comment, that Japanese umbrella pine is only one tree with all those trunks growing out of the ground.
it's like a multi-stem. It's a lot of mass.
But it's just one tree. It looks like it should be 5 or 6.
An arborist or someone said it was one. It does look. We first called it, but it is what it is. We first called it a multi-stem. It says a multi-stem tree if it's made from the same stump or root or something. I don't really know.
All right, I just never saw one like that before.
Yeah.
All set.
Now you can say you have. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
There are no mathematicians in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to close this hearing
Sorry,
and take it
Tom.
under advisement.
Bird second.
And Jamie, I actually saw Tom in person.
Did you?
He really
In person.
He exists in person,
I think it's called IRL in real life.
in real life.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I don't know, Tom. I thought it was something we said. You stayed away for so long. All right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? All right. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, I.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tom. Good to see
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
you again, Tom. It made much more sense being able to talk it through with you
In real life. Yeah.
in real life.
IRL.
IRL. Bye bye for now. TTFN. That's it. Ta-ta for now.
Tom, you're going to be on the next one, right?
No, I don't think so.
96
next?
Waterside?
Oh, I could stick around for that if there are questions.
I think you
I
should.
mean, Arlene is doing it, but
No, I understand that, but we might
Sure.
need some revisions on your plan as well.
yeah, okay. I'll be here.
So next up, bear with me because I'm looking at the quorum here. Courtney is not on this.
Oh, hang
All
on.
right, we still have 4. All right, next up, Frank Siaka, 96 Waterside Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an unpermitted patio, construct a deck, install a fence, install mitigation and restoration plantings, and to request a variance from FWR 10.38 4F4. And again, for the record, the quorum tonight excludes Courtney. So our quorum is Betsy, myself, Kevin, and Ron, so we can move forward. Hopefully you show the same, Jen.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. Jen,
Did you read it already, Mr. Chairman?
I did.
Yep, you did. Yes, you did. Okay, so I have promoted Arlene Wilson up to present her project. I will be sharing my screen for Arlene, and then Tom Bunker did the site plan. Arlene, which plan would you like me to start with? Tom's plan or your plan?
Tom's plan, please.
Tom's plan, okay. I'm going to share my screen and start with Tom's plan. Share. Can everybody see that, or would you like me to make it a little larger?
Little
Yeah,
larger?
that helps.
Okay. Okay.
Can
Thank
you
you,
pan around a
Jan.
little bit?
Pan it around, Tom? Oh, wait, how do you do that? I don't know how. Oops. Tom, you messed me all up.
This is the reason I asked Jennifer to do it.
I know. Tom usually moves his plan around and makes me dizzy. Tonight he was really good. He was very cognizant about the fact that I was going to get dizzy if he started moving his plan around.
Good
You're
evening,
up,
Arlene Wilson, AM Wilson Associates here for the Shakas. At the last session of this hearing, there were a lot of concerns about the size of the deck addition. And so we went back and spoke with the client and did some redesign. And the result is that we are down to 198 square feet of new proposed deck. We've taken off the sort of west wing of the existing permitted deck that's shown in some vertical hatching. And the rest of the deck is just a smidgen shorter north to south than it exists today. The section in front of the octagon room, if you will, is already properly permitted. And there are a couple of stoops, entryways that are hard to see on this, but they're under the rest of the proposed deck. In order to make that more functional, where there are wide stairs set into the section of the permitted deck, we're going to replace that with a flat floor so that the entire deck is at the same elevation and all of it is useful. There's about 14 square feet of new access off the deck in its northeast corner. That's included in the calculations to show that we're down just under 200 square feet of new structure in the velocity zone. None of that, including the stairs, is any closer to the top of the bank than the existing structure. So if you see the strike line off the northwest corner of the piece of deck we're doing away with, that's 47 square feet from the top of the riprap wall, which under your regulations is the top of the bank. And the stairs are shown at 47 feet from the top of the bank, your bank as well. So that changed our mitigation calculations a little bit. What Tom did, thank God I didn't have to do it, was to go back and look at the previous orders of condition and plans for this site. And it appears that there was supposed to have been, and I guess at one point was, 3,175 square feet of mitigation and 492 square feet of restoration. The prior owner put that in, got a certificate of compliance, and then methodically over time did away with it. So that now the site has lawn from the house and deck right to the top of the bank. So as part of this, we will be replanting, and you can see Tom has little green stipples in the mitigation area. So we're putting all of the prior mitigation back, plus 1,474 square feet of additional mitigation to cover the new construction, and the 492 square feet of restoration area, so that there will be a total of new planting of shrubs and trees on this site of 4,261 square feet. And those calculations are shown on Tom's plan. We got your staff's report early this morning. Thank you. I know you've been short-staffed, and it was an effort to do this since we only got these plans in a week ago, but we appreciate it very much. And there are several additional modifications that the staff would like, and we're happy to provide them. The view corridor, which shows on the mitigation plan. Jen, maybe you can put that up.
Sure. Hang on one sec.
So it's essentially it runs off the new deck.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have some questions on the new deck. I'm just trying to figure out how to get over to your plan. So
Yep.
give me 1 second. Because I enlarged it and now it's a little wonky. There it goes again.
So what happens, I guess, inside this house is that the octagon room is a formal sitting area, which they don't use very much. They use the eating area, which is in front of the new deck, as the place where they all gather. I think common for most families these days. And so they want the view area to be off of the area that they use inside the house most frequently. So staff has asked that we also add that view corridor to Tom's plan, and we're happy to do that. Tom's plan also shows the restoration area versus the mitigation area. Restoration is down the east sideline of the yard space predominantly. I did not put that on the mitigation plan. I'm happy to do that. They've also suggested that because the last permit for this house showed 3 trees in the area seaward of the house, that we provide 3 trees seaward of the house now. So we'll move one of the trees that's now landward of the house to the north yard in order to accommodate that. They asked that the section that we're shaving off the north face of the deck be shown graphically. Unfortunately, at the scale of the plan, it really isn't possible to do that. And that's the reason why I had Tom put the proposed dimensions on the deck, so that it would be easy for staff and anyone else in the future to confirm that the proposed deck is the right size. There was a note that the fence is in the velocity zone. It certainly is. As we discussed the last time, the fence runs along the sidelines and across the top of the revetment. It's predominantly to contain the owner's dogs It is wire, not what they call non-climbable dog fence. It has openings that are approximately 4 by 6 inches with just wire in between. It doesn't represent an impediment to floodwaters in the event that we actually have a 100-year storm and the site's underwater. So I don't think that it's a problem in terms of complying with your regulations. Jen and I had a little back and forth about the potential to use tamarisk at this site. We've used it before. It's a nice plant because it's so drought and salt tolerant. It was historically used, at least in the Central Cape area. I find it in Barnstable frequently. And it started being used probably in the late 1800s. It's not quite as old an introduction as pitch pine, but it's close. But if the board doesn't want us to use it, we won't. The staff also has requested that we not show short shrubs anywhere except in the view corridor, and we're happy to make that change. The rest of the area that's shown in that yellow-green outside the view corridor will wind up being medium shrubs. And other than that, I think that the project now meets the regulatory requirements that including insofar as you deem that we still need a variance for the 198 square feet of new deck. I believe that we actually do that. The argument that we provided to you in our 630 memo is still valid for this particular design. So I would be happy to try and answer any questions the board might have and to put Tom on the hot seat if that's necessary.
All right. Thank you, Arlene. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to share the screen again because I am thoroughly confused by what you said, Arlene. So I'm just going to go.
But if Tom confused you on the last one, there's no reason why I shouldn't do it now.
It's not just me.
It's no. But Tom, it does involve your math.
Uh-oh.
I know. So Arlene, let me go back to Tom's plan. Okay, and I'm going to. So I'm going to go back one more. I'm just trying to center this for the board, so I know. So one of the things I can do talking points first, and then I can share the screen again. Tom, what I would like from you, because I need to remind the board that there were two major violations on this project. The former property owner built the house. There was supposed to be intact a 35-foot wide buffer strip that was systematically removed over the years. Off the top of my head, I don't know if it's enforcement or not, but a new notice of intent was filed to restore that buffer, and then that buffer disappeared again.
And
the new
was that
property,
the 2003 notice?
I believe so.
Yeah.
The new property owner was well aware of this because we met them on site prior to them purchasing the property, and we actually had them visualize what all these plantings were look like. When I scale off your plan, Tom, I'm not even getting a 35-foot width buffer. So what I would like you to do is, can you differentiate with even more different hatching on your plan? Sorry. Can you please put the two older buffers on And then the new mitigation, so the old mitigation or old buffer zone that was supposed to be in there, and then differentiate it with a different kind of dotting or hatching or color. I know you have color, Tom, so color might be working in this one.
Two now, yeah.
Yeah, so that we can see if it actually all fits. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
by
what I
area
need from
should
you,
fit.
Tom.
I wasn't aware of that, all that history actually until today with the 35-foot buffer.
Okay, so Tom, I know I sent this late yesterday. I sent it before I left the office yesterday. There is a permitting history document on this. I think the commission received it. Arlene, I'm not quite sure if Alyssa originally sent it to you or not, but I'd be
Yeah.
happy to send it to both of you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the problems with the first mitigation plan, which is what is the 877, I think is the
Yep.
number for, is that we don't have a copy of the plan, and my understanding is that you don't either. There was a subsequent request for determination in 2003. We both have that plan. That plan shows sort of 35-foot buffer interrupted by a couple of rather wide pathways.
Paths. Yeah.
Yeah, except that even for that one, the note on the plan is one patch shows as existing, one patch shows as something else. It's hard to read the numbers on it, but in any event, it's not a full 35-foot buffer across the entire width. It's broken into sections.
Well, we'll look
so
at that and we'll send you what
Yeah.
we have. And we'll send you the language what we have. We may not have the plan, but we definitely have the
Right.
language of that first.
And I have
Where
the order of conditions, and it's
Yeah.
in the order.
And if the order says 35-foot buffer, then if
Mhm.
we don't have the plan, it's still a 35-foot buffer. That stone revetment is a real good indicator of where that buffer started. So it's
Yeah,
not
I
like
can
we're
see-
dealing with a shifting shoreline or anything. That revetment's been there.
I understand. The easy part is that the more current of the orders was actually the plan that Tom's office did. And so he does have that one, and that's easy. I
Yeah, well,
believe,
again, I would like
Yeah.
the original buffer that was
Right.
removed. And then, because what I'm trying to determine is we can actually fit the mitigation for you. Because again, when I scale off Tom's plan, I'm not getting a full 35 on this new plan.
No, I can
Okay.
see on there, it's, at one point, the house is different dimensions, either from 47 to 49 feet back from the top of the seawall. And it's 19 feet from the edge to the edge of the mitigation, so we're missing like 5 to 7 feet.
Yeah.
In width.
and if there's
Why?
an area, why?
Didn't know about it.
Because we've shaped the mitigation area differently instead of just running a straight line across.
So you ran it
It's-
up the side towards the road
Right.
instead of making it the buffer.
So
Okay. So anyway, I want
guess
Tom's plan to show that. So we
the-
can see
Jen,
if
I have-
everything fits.
I have a question for you about that before we move on, if I might.
Sure.
And that is, is it your preference to do it as a straight line? Or
No.
is
my preference is
moving
our-
the mitigation around all right?
Okay, so that'll be up to the board. I just am trying to determine if everything is going to fit.
Okay.
Because what I am going to recommend to this board is before my staff signs off or approves a building permit for a new deck, if they approve the new deck, I want that original mitigation put back in before we sign off on a building permit for a deck.
So not just the area, but the footprint of the original?
Yes. No, the number of the required mitigation, the square footage of mitigation.
The square
however-
footage,
yeah.
okay.
But the board might say they want the footprint. I don't know. But what I'm recommending is the original buffer get reinstalled, whatever configuration this board approves, prior to us signing off on that building permit. This property has had too many violations on it. And then it gets planted. and
As
then it
long as
just
the
gets-
board
Yeah.
I understand the history of the site is very checkered. I just don't want the board to hold it against the current owner, if that's possible.
No, not at all.
I mean,
But
he's
our
trying
current
to do
owner
the right
was
thing.
aware of it, so they're not responsible for it, but they were very well aware of it when they purchased the property. So they knew what they were purchasing. And they knew what the staff was going to do. We were very clear, and as you know, and as you and I have discussed, Arlene, I am very clear and very blunt, and when I say so, they understood that, you know, this was what the recommendation from the staff was going to be. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I have a question because I'm confused.
Numbers?
Yes, Tom, it's your numbers again. Okay, so Arlene and Tom, if you can see the little cursor, I know this guy's going, the west side deck, right?
You're not sharing, Jen.
The screen isn't up
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry. I thought I hit share. Sorry about that, guys. This deck right here.
Yep.
Can everybody see my cursor? That down here is called west deck, 114 square feet removed. And then we have this deck, seaward deck, and that says in your math, Tom, that you're removing that deck.
Right.
But then if we go to Arlene's plan, it's still there. Now, is this going to be a deck or is this going to be a patio?
The rebuilt deck. We're removing it so we can rebuild it. That's how I
So
put the
how
number.
are you, if you're removing it and then rebuilding it, then how are you reducing it by 115 square feet? I just scaled that off.
We're not rebuilding the west deck.
But you're still going to be over your 200 square feet if you rebuild that seaward deck. Because according to your math, Tom, we'll go back to your math. The only way you make that number work is if you remove that seaward deck, because your new deck is 149. Or are you saying this whole thing is 479?
The whole thing is 479. The whole new deck. I'm counting the whole thing as the new deck. But it's 479, like in the calculations. So the total removals are 295 square feet. So I'm saying we're removing everything. And then that's 295 square feet. The two decks, not counting the patio because that wasn't permitted. The steps down, the steps were on the approved plan before this was done, but the patio was not on there. And then we have the proposed deck of 479 square feet, which is the entire deck that's being rebuilt.
Did we lose you, Jen? Did we lose Jen?
No, I'm here.
He's studying.
I'm thinking.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
What's confusing you?
I don't know. I was focusing on that seaward deck, and I think I was focusing it on too much. So, okay. All right. If the numbers work, the numbers work. Then the only
Double
other thing
check when I'm doing it all.
What was that, Mr.
I was
Chairman?
just saying, I'll
Oh.
double check when I'm going through the plan.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you're taking it off and we're under that too. It's just we're taking it off and then we're replacing it. So I'm having an
Don't we
issue with
need a
that.
continuance for this?
No.
And you would- Of course, we need a continuance. And
Yeah.
you and Tom can go over these numbers
Oh
before
yeah,
we
no,
get a
because I
plan
need
again.
Tom's plan to make sure we fit all the mitigation. And the only other thing was, Arlene, can you tell me the percentage on the, I'm gonna need a percentage of those, on what you're gonna be using for your low growing plants, from the Hudsonia and the St. John's wort, as opposed to the beach pea. So I'm assuming the beach
Yeah,
pea is
no.
just your ground cover.
Yeah, beach pea is just a filler, Jen.
Okay.
It's we use it because it's a nitrogen fixer and a natural fertilizer, which in this kind of an area the plants can use. And since we can't actually have anyone fertilize them, that kind of helps with the growth habit.
Okay. That's
but
fine.
it-
So we're gonna need a continuance, so Tom can revise his plans so we can see if the mitigation works. Arlene can revise her plan to make sure the little low shrubs are not outside the view corridor. You need to take the Teramix off, or we can have a whole conversation about how it is native to Saudi Arabia, Sinai Peninsula, and the Mediterranean. Oh, and then I could also tell you about how Mark's head popped off because apparently when he was a grad student, he was sent out to the desert to study the salt cedar, and he's the one that printed off all this information, and pretty sure he's going to bring me in his study that he says is about this thick on Teramix and how horrible it
yeah,
is.
no,
So
that's
just take it
not
off.
worth it. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
No. So I do need the revised plans, and the big one about Tom's is I just want to make sure, Arlene, that the plants all fit. It doesn't have to be a straight line, but as long as you can
Okay.
make sure everything fits, and we can make
Yep.
sure that the square footage of the original mitigation is installed prior to building. I'm good.
Right. So I think for a continuance date, and I already have something next Wednesday. Can we go to the 16th? Does that work for you, Tom? You need another week beyond that?
I think I could get that done in a week. I mean, it's not a lot, just have to put it on.
Problem is that I don't think we can accommodate it on the 16th. I'm trying to find a schedule.
Okay.
Hang on. If that would you sign, Mr. Chairman, sorry, I'm working as fast.
Well, you look for that. I'm going to pull for comments. All right, commissioner comments or questions, because even with a continuance, we still want to make sure we're covering everything so that we don't have to continue yet again for something that should have been covered. So Betsy.
No comments.
Okay. Kevin.
I wouldn't dare.
No, come on. Ron.
I'm all set, thank you, no comment.
Oh, man. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have the date, Jen?
I'm gonna have to push this to the 23rd because I think we have a couple of other continuances that night plus that, and quite frankly, I just don't have, given my schedule next week, I just don't have the time to pump everything out for the board to make sure everything's done. So it'll have to go to the 23rd.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to October 23rd.
Fiscal second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 10:23, last call. We're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have continued this until 10:23. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you.
Thank you and good
Tom,
night.
I think I was overthinking your math.
You think?
It's really
Yeah.
very simple.
Crap.
I know.
Sometimes.
Sorry.
All
Good night,
right.
Tom. Good night,
Good night,
Arlene.
Arlene.
Good night.
Good night.
Tom.
All right. Next up, Michael Corazzato, United States Coast Guard, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to replace, in quotes, Broadway Day Beacon number 3, which is an aid to navigation for an ATON structure off the coast. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we continued this hearing for the receipt of natural heritage comments. We have received them. Staff has no comments. Natural heritage determined there would be no prohibitive take. That's all I have.
All right. Fallon.
No comment. Thank you.
All right.
Make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. That's what I wanted to hear. We have a motion in competition for the second. All right. Comments or questions? All right. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Hold on. I skipped a step. Jen, public chat function, please.
Nothing in
Only
the
three
public chat,
people
Mr.
left.
Chairman.
Jamie.
I have to ask. Part of the process. I skipped a beat. You should fire me. That's what you should do. You should just.
No way you're getting out of here
No
tonight.
way.
No way.
No way.
Not getting out that easy.
All right. It's unanimous with this quorum. We have closed this hearing. I gotta try harder. Where can I drop the ball next? All right, next up, Brad Chase, Massachusetts Department of Marine Fisheries, Wings Pond, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair the channel and weirs used for fish passage between Wings Pond and Buzzards Bay. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we had continued this hearing for the receipt of a DEP number. We have received that DEP number.
Woohoo.
Staff has no additional comments or questions.
All right. Anybody have any comments or questions on this project? All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under.
Nothing in the public chat comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird
Gladfelter.
second.
All right. You said none, Jen.
No, yep.
Thank you. 2 in a row and you still won't dump my butt. All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. All right. Next up, continued hearing under an enforcement order. Joshua O'Brien and Melissa Mayo O'Brien, 22 Deer Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted installation of a dock, construction of a shed and patio, and associated clearing. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe there's anybody here for this project. I know they are working with Tim Santos, who we know is on vacation right now. So we are going to do a continuance for this one, Fallon. Yep. Unless there's someone
Yes.
in the participants, and if you want to raise your hand function, you can do so at this time. Doesn't look like anybody's here for this project. I know they're working with Tim on this, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that's
So
good.
let's bring this out to the 23rd.
23rd.
At the request of the staff, we'll continue this till October 23rd.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 10:23. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 10:23. Thank you for not burying us on the 16th. Next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, Stephen Ferrer, R&B Development LLC, 134 Minot Road, Falmouth, Mass. And
Yes,
the
Mr.
quorum
Chairman.
is all of us here tonight. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, give me one moment. This is the revetment repairs at the In Seasons hotel timeshare facility over off of Minot Road. They were going to replace some of the plants. They were going to do the original project with the entire revetment surrounding the whole property. Now they're just focusing on 2 sections. They're going to be installing some measures to protect the salt marsh. And because they're going to be basically altering most of the vegetation along the top of that revetment, they do have some replanting component to the plan. I don't think I've missed anything, but I might have. Wait a minute, I know I have notes on it. I just have to find them. Nope, that's where Court Landing. That's where Court Landing. Oh, speckles. Oh, here they are, at the very bottom. Time of year, we need a time of year from DMF. And they're doing 10 cubic yards of beach nourishment on the east side.
pretty clean. Anybody have anything they want to see in there?
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as just explained by Jen.
Bird second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and multiple seconds to issue an order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, John Rosenfeld, 41 Beckles Road and 0 Beckles Road. Map and parcel ID is 36-06-000-007, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this is for the they're redoing the whole house. Yep, they are.
Yeah, they're tearing
Proposed
the house down.
house, patio, carriage house, install mitigation. They lost some trees along the top of the bank, so they're gonna be replacing those. And they're gonna be replacing some additional trees. They wanted to keep, they're abandoning one path. They have a staircase down, but it is fairly steep, so they did want to keep an additional path that has a gentler grade down that slope. We did walk it. I do understand what they mean, that
That's fine.
that staircase is
Yeah.
steep. So I understand the desire to keep that gentler sloping path. They did put in some previous mitigation that was no longer there. I think our only concern was how they were going to put the trees on the bank. It was a lot of tree removal on the bank prior to this person, to the current property owner purchasing the property. And then the only other notes I have are, I have no invasive species management under this permit. They would have to do any sort of invasive species management under an amendment. And then we do want a revised plan because we do want to see a 5-foot diameter around the trees that they have in the mitigation area.
Perfect. Anything anybody want to see in there? All right.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, vote amended order of conditions. First up, 288 Quistit Avenue Joint Venture. 288 Quistit Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. You know, it's a good thing we put Mass in there because otherwise, I don't know, I would have been. All right, sorry.
It said
Getting late.
Falmouth, Maine.
Right.
Or the new store downtown that's bringing Falmouth in the UK to Falmouth, Mass. Has something to do with the wall. Hang on for a second. This was, yep, Santos PIM project.
Yeah, they scaled the.
Reconstructing a retaining wall and to amend it by reconstructing the retaining wall across the backyard. I think they were going to there's going to be a much bigger wall, and now they're
just going to rebuild it in kind.
yeah, they're just rebuilding it. Before they were
It
tearing
was
it
bigger
down
and more
all of that.
complex.
Yeah, it was a lot more elaborate, but they are still going to take care of the little pipe under the stairs that Tom Corvo found all those years ago. They are going to be dealing with that.
Why rush these things? Tom Corvo has been gone for how many years now?
I know.
When's he coming back?
I'm working on it.
Yeah. All right. Anything anybody want to see in there?
Make a motion, we issue an order of conditions as discussed and make sure
Bird
that the
second.
pipe is gone.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second, issue an order of conditions. Last call. All right. We're voting to issue the order of conditions. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. An amended order of conditions. All right. Next up, Scott Agnieszka Dresser, trustees, 44 Walkway Landing Road, East Falmouth, Mass. And no, you're not hearing things. We have heard this earlier tonight, although this was a different project. This is a different project.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was an amended order. They are now going to completely raise and rebuild the house, bring it up to flood zone standards, put the pilings where it's in the V zone and our flood zone, and then they are asking for a 200-foot enclosed section for the kayaks, which I do believe we kind of led them to believe that we would permit at the hearing. We just saw from the previous project tonight, the mitigation associated with this project is going to be wrapped into the invasive species management plan project.
All right. Anything anybody want to see in there? All right.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions, amended order of condition as discussed.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an amended order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting on the amended order of conditions. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Last motion. Who wants it?
Move to adjourn.
Driscoll, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned, but just a reminder, there's no meeting next week. Thank you, everyone.